Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Csec Cxc Geography Made Simple. Welcome to this share. Okay, so today we'll be looking at instrumentation. How do you actually put together the research instrument, and we'll be looking at one structure, the shell of the questionnaire. We also be looking at how you actually structure your focus group interview session, even personal interview session. We also look at what is meant by observation schedule and how that is done. All right, so it's all of this in which I mentioned comes underneath what you refer to as instrumentation, right? So you gather information for your SBA through these three means out in the field, right? Of course, you're gonna have to complement all of this with research information, because you have to get published information on whatever you're doing, right? So first thing to note, right, when doing your questionnaires, you should ensure that the topic of the research that you're doing is clearly highlighted. In addition to the topic being highlighted, right, you should ensure that the instruction is clear, right? So the whomever is participating in the research, you refer to them as research respondents or research participant, right? Whomever is actually participating will have a clear-cut understanding as to what is actually required. So you actually outline the questions and you'll give them choices. It's best to stay away from questions that is open-ended, questions that require respondents to actually write in their thought. It's best to give them questions that are multiple choice based, right? Bearing in mind that for every questionnaire, there are two main questions that has to be there. One, you refer to it as, well, both of them you refer to as demographic question. One, the age group, and two, the gender, right? Because in comparative analysis, when you're actually in the presentation, you're gonna need to see if something stands out amongst the females, if something stands against amongst the males responses, you practically would be able to draw that information and highlight it. Now, age groups are normally done in groups, and it's up to you how you want to do it, like within 5, 4, 6, 10, whatever, right? So you do those, and then afterwards, I would, in doing a bunch of questionnaires, I would not have more than 10 solid questions, right? Having 10 solid questions, normally multiple choice. And if best as possible, if you can do them in sequential similar form, in the sense that, for example, you would ask a question, solid waste pollution is a problem within this community. You wouldn't put yes or no. What you would do, you would put a sequential set of responses such as agree, strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, not sure, right? So if you can actually design your questions like a statement and give the sequential answers, that would be more easier for you in the long run, because what happens is that you have a word limit in the research project, and this word limit is between 1000 to 1200 words, right? So the more that the respondents actually write in, let's say that you do open-ended question, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to analyze and interpret. Thus, you are being advised to do sequential, responses such as this, right? So the yes and the no, I would stick away from that. But if you have to do the yes and the no, please limit it to about one question, right? Okay, and you would continue down the line along this trajectory, right? Note that you don't want too much questions in your questionnaire, right? I suggest that you have probably a maximum of probably about 10 questions, not including the demographic questions. And the demographic questions are those that ask that the age and the gender. Now, when you're actually looking at designing your questions, it is being suggested that you mix the questions with regards to difficulty. So you would have easy questions, questions that respondents can easily answer off the top of their head. You'll have questions that are intermediate as far as difficulty is concerned, which have them to think a little bit, and questions that actually requires them to make a solid but pointed decision in their responses, right? As I said before, the question should be so designed that it doesn't really open the floor for the respondent to actually be throwing in, should I say, stating several different options in responses. That means you're gonna try to stay away from open-ended questions, because remember, these questions are going to be analyzed, and in analyzation, that means you're going to have to bear in mind all the responses that you have actually gotten from the respondents in the research on the research instrument, right? As you continue to write your questions, as far as let's say that we are doing something on garbage collection, right? You would probably use, as I suggested before, agree, disagree, strongly agree, strongly disagree. These type of questions with these responses are very easy to analyze, and if you wish, you can actually change up the responses as you move towards your difficult questions, right? For example, you can probably place in some other options. As I said before, it's not really that you're gonna stay away from it in totality, but I advise you to stay away from the open-ended question. If you have 20 persons, you might end up getting 20 responses, thus you might end up have to analyze the 20 responses, right? And I'm going to be talking about the analysis of the data collected in a different video share probably next week, where I actually look at how you actually analyze. Now, in a video in which I did in the summer, I explained the presentation of data, how it is actually done, right? But this analysis in which I'm going to be looking at next week, it's going to be a little bit more intricate, a little bit more personal, right? So here I'm talking about solid waste pollution. I'm talking the solid waste pollution within the community, the sources. We're trying to find all of that as best as possible. Also, in the design of your question, try to actually get unearth information from your respondents with regards to solutions, right? What is the government actually doing so as to manage the situation? What is the community doing so as to manage the situation? Steps taken by different agencies. What are the agencies involved, right? And probably you could list them, right? And what are some of the implications of solid waste pollution within and as best as possible, as I say, implication here, it's wise for you to keep your language in your questionnaire instrument, simple as possible. You might be a PhD student, a degree student, a master's student doing a research. However, the persons who are actually responding to your your questions on your questionnaire instrument, alright, they might not have the full comprehension of certain terminology or language. So you're gonna actually use the simple language so as to get the students, or should I say get the respondents, to answer appropriately, right? Because some people might say, boy, the language is too wide for me, I can't understand that. All right. So as I said before, stick to between 10 to 12 questions. A lot of persons have actually tried submitting questions like 20 questions. Remember, you're gonna have to analyze all of these, right? So you stick to the questions, as far as 10, 12 questions, that will be okay. Ensure that the questions that are outlined are in line with the topic, the title, and the aim of the research. Don't ask a question that doesn't relate to the research, none at all. Right? It should be related to the research. It should be able to help the researcher to unearth appropriate responses for what you are doing. Okay. All right. So as I said before at the initial onset, you have what you call questionnaires, right? And you also have interviews. Now the interviews and the questionnaire are two different instruments, right? The interviews are it can be conducted in two different ways. You can have what you call a personal interview, right? And you can have what you call a group interview, right? The personal interview usually have between 10 to 12 questions. And remember, for each interview question, you are going to have, probably you might have a follow-up question, right? So you might ask, how long have you been living in the community? Why is it that how long have you been associated with the community? Where do you live in the community? Do you live near a gully? This is for the interview, right? What are some of the problems that face as a result of solid waste pollution? And probably you probably might want to sit and listen to the respondent, as the respondent actually respond to this, and you might hear something and you might ask a follow-up question on that. A point to note: during an interview session, which can be done virtually, we have the virus right now, right? So you can do that in the virtual space, right? Now doing the interview, you should ask, well, before the interview, you should ask the person you're interviewing, or the persons you're interviewing, permission to actually record them. So when you record, you can actually, in your layback time, should I say, in your replay time, time in which you're actually replaying everything to document, you can listen word for word and transcribe whatever the person says onto pen and paper, right? Some might not want them, might not want to be recorded because of reasons. They might feel as if you're whatever they might say might go against them in the future. So you're gonna have to take notes. No problem with that. You just take notes, ask questions, take notes, and that might be a little bit more time consuming, right? Because you're gonna have to listen, you're gonna have to go to write, you're gonna have to do every little thing, right? As best as possible during the interview, you ask questions, right, that is reflective to the topic at hand. Also, you take pictures. You take pictures of the area, you take pictures of the group, you take picture of the person you're interviewing. This go as a means of evidence that you are actually in the field doing work. So if you're looking at solid waste pollution, you take picture of the actual area. Okay, so let's jump into focus group interview, right? Okay, so focus group interview is usually an interview which involves more than one person. It can be a group of 5, 4, a group of persons, right? All being asked the same set of questions. The thing about it that really make this type of interview exciting is that all persons may disagree with which responses in which they are actually being shared in that group, right? Which makes it really interesting for the researcher, him or herself. Now, always allow um, individuals responding to a question to complete their point, right? Do not allow one person to be answering all the time. You do it in a sequential order. For example, you might have a circle, and you might say, okay, starting from the left, could everybody share their opinion, and whether or not domestic violence is a problem within a community and why. So each person would actually get probably the same amount of time, yes, to speak, right? Take turns asking each person question. So it's not like you're gonna be asking one person question for any prolonged period of time, right? It's kind of different from personal interview, where in which individual is being asked question, and it's like on a more on an intimate level, where in it, sometimes a level of anonymity, they don't want the name to be shared that they did this. I can't pronounce the word right, sorry about that, right? Anonymity, whatever you call it, right? In taking out a photograph, as mentioned before, that's really valid, in the sense that it serves as a means of evidence that some level of fieldwork has been done. Now, some depending on the topic that you're doing, some persons might not want their photographs to be taken. So therefore, you're gonna probably have to do some body shots, like probably from the neck down, or probably their hands up on their foot down. You do some body shots, not necessarily the head. So as to share that, listen, I was in the field, persons declined from taking facial pic. This is what happened, right? Always ask the permission, right? And always use a schedule as to how you're gonna do this type of interview, right? As I shared before, it's kind of the same application with focus group interview. Ask them to permission whether or not you're gonna uh they are gonna allow you to record a voice, right? If they say yes, you go ahead and record, because when you record the document, when you record the information, it's more easier for you to actually transcribe, right? Also, you give them enough time to answer the question, and you don't ask them a question and like run into another question, right? It's all of that is just sequential. All right. Okay, so that's it for the focus group interview. Alright, so let's move on to the observation schedule. Now, a lot of person might be wondering, what is an observation schedule? Practically, this is anecdotal, right? It is a means of formal anecdotal collection. You collect information based off your personal experience, and a photograph or your notes, your journal, copies from journal, photographs from journal, or from entry books, are actually used as a means of evidence. For example, you're doing something about juvenile delinquency. You go by the police station, and you ask them if they if they can actually give you the statistic as to the rate of domestic violence which occur within a particular area. They might not be able to furnish you with the data, but they probably might have a book where they record certain things. So probably you can take a picture there, right? And outlay what is done, or what is reported and all that. So you with this observation schedule, it's about time, observation, and what you actually gather from what you have observed, right? So first, let's say the 16th of the 11th, 2021, you're gonna be doing some observation, and this observation is gonna be lasting for a few days, whether it be 3 days, 4 days, whatever, right? Not necessarily consecutively like 16, 17, 18. And what you'll be looking at is solid waste pollution, right? And let's say that you see a man throwing garbage in the gully.
right? And what's your remark? What does this look like to you? When you actually see this, what comes to your forefront of your mind. How does this play out? You can put that over into the remarks, right? And let's say another day you practically make another observation, right? And you see like rainfall, right? Rainfall very heavy, and a lot of garbage is being carried on the street, right? And probably one of your tentative remark would be the roads are blocked, drains are blocked, and you have a lot of flooding occur at the end of the street, right? Probably you can even make note that garbage truck don't really visit this area, so therefore persons burn the garbage, throw the garbage in the gully. You make these remarks, so it is what you have actually seen, right? Now, in geography, you're going to be referring to these photographs as plates, right? Plates, right? In social studies, you would refer to them as photograph. So here, it is not necessary that it's going to be 16, 17, 18. You can make observation, let's say you make 6 observation within 1 week, or you make, let's say you make within 2 weeks period, you make like 5 observation, and you do them randomly, right? You're going to state that you're going to be doing them randomly throughout the 3 weeks, right? You're going to state that into your methodology section of your research, right? And you're gonna talk about what you see, and you're going to make a remark as to probably what could be done or whatever. You're just going to be talking. As I said before, it's an anecdotal, so it's not necessary that it's something that is evidential, in the sense that you this is happening now, but it's something that you're actually remarking about. Is anecdotal information, but you have the photograph as evidence to say this is happening. And so in a sense, it's like it's analyzing, yeah, over by the remark section, but you're not really analyzing to the fullest of the extent, right? Now, photographs, you have roughly about between 6 to 8 photographs, right, within the observation schedule, right? Now, coupled with these 3 mechanisms, the interview, the interviews, the questionnaire, and the interview, the questionnaire, and the observation schedule, right? You are expected to use research, public research from a textbook, something from a textbook, so as to validate whatever you have actually gathered in the field, right? So you are going to probably use documented research to define terms, to share what other writers have been saying about the particular issue, and you might end up discover documentation on the very same thing that you are actually researching, in newspaper articles, in online journals, whatever, right? You make use of that, because remember, it's important that in your SBA project, whether it be social studies or geography, that you have what you refer to as a reference, right? And there are specific ways in which you write your reference, right? They usually, for academic purposes, you use what you call APA format. This is Raleigh here for another episode of Csec Cxc Geography Made Simple. I hope that this video share was of value to you. Now, I had done a typed up version of a social studies project. I'm going to be going through it slowly. Play some music in the background. Hopefully, you can actually see some of the attributes in which I've actually shared with you earlier on with regards to writing, constructing your instrument. You talk about the instrumentation, the topic, the title, the instructions, how you lay out the questionnaire, probably the probable way of outlining the responses, possible responses for the questions, all of that, right? It's hope that this will be of great value to you. Have a wonderful day. Peace out. Bye bye for now. Cool.